Bennett,
Daniel,
how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well rested. I'm feeling good. And yesterday I received my first order of Freshly, one of these home delivery food, services that I'm
What's it called?
Freshly, not to be confused with Hello Fresh, or a lot of the other names have fresh in their title.
Freshly.
Yeah.
So like that the actual word Freshly.
Yep. I guess that's a word. That's not one I would use a lot. Like
Freshly what?
freshly delivered food, I guess.
Okay.
It has the word fresh, and I guess it's like chef prepared meals straight to your door.
What-
I don't know.
what
They all have
chef?
some sort of, Chef Freshly, I assume. Like responsibly resourced. Throw in all your, whatever.
Organic.
Yeah.
Non-GMO.
Yeah, all of that stuff.
Cage-free.
All diets. Like
Free range.
Yep. Free caged, whatever.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know. I'm overwhelmed. Even when you Google like best home delivery meal services, all these it's hard to differentiate what's like an ad or because they'll have lists and it's just like whatever. This one had a really good special. I've been wanting to try it for a while, and so it arrived yesterday, and I was curious what it would be like getting these foods delivered to me. Like, how do they keep it cold? Like, it didn't mention like be there when it arrives.
Dry
and
ice,
throw
I'm
it in your
sure,
yeah.
right?
Well, actually, it was those sort of gel packs. So it was this really heavy box. I opened it, and it's insulated with a sort of plastic encased foam, and then 3 ice packs, essentially, or gel packs, that they said you can either just let it go down the drain because it's like a friendly gel, and then throw away, or you can just use these giant ice packs. But they're so huge, they would take up a third of my freezer. So it felt like package intensive, yet it tried to give the impression of like, you know how things are in brown and cardboard to kind of look green and of like friendly to Mother Earth. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like,
Yeah.
so they're packaged that way, and it talked about recycle this, like let the gel out and then recycle it, or it even wanted me to discard the foam but recycle the plastic to the whatever. But I have not tried the food yet since it came in yesterday, and I went out with some friends yesterday. But
I'm
tonight
surprised
I'm gonna
that
try
they
it.
put those big gel packs in there. That just seems inefficient for shipping and space. The nice thing about dry ice is that, as it melts, it turns into CO2 and just dissipates. So,
Well, how
you don't
expensive
have
is
to-
dry ice? I just don't. I'm imagining the gel. Everything's cheap because gel's cheap and whatever. If it's basically water and some other substance, but it's heavy. The whole thing was really heavy.
Right.
That's what I thought would be pricey.
Right. For shipping. I don't know how much it costs to make dry ice compared to the gel, but I don't know. Maybe it's more expensive than I'm thinking. I just wouldn't imagine so.
It would feel really futuristic to open up a box and have all the cool dry ice coming out and everything. So, I don't know.
I think a lot of food, I guess it depends on the food too. Like, if you're shipping frozen food, which this isn't frozen, is it? This food
No,
that
well,
you're
that's
getting?
actually something. I
So
put
it's
it
just
in the fridge. It
refrigerated.
said put it in your fridge, and so I did.
So one time I got some meat delivered to me, and it had dry ice packaged in there, and so everything was very cold. It was like noticeably just really freaking cold when you'd go to grab, one of the steaks that was in this dry ice cooled package, and it's like, wow, this is like
Actually
a very
frozen,
special kind of
essentially.
cold that I've never felt before. Like you hold
a
it
very
for
special kind of cold.
yeah, like you hold it for just a second, and you're like, I can't hold this anymore, and you have to like put it down. It's like holding something that's too hot to handle.
Yeah. So no, mine. I looked at mine. There was no ice buildup or anything. It was very reasonably cold, I suppose. Put it in the fridge, and I will see how it all works today. I didn't
What
want
kind of
anything.
food did you get?
Did
Did you
I
get
actually,
hot dogs?
I got 6 meals. There's like aloha
Pigs in a
chicken. I got some turkey.
Pizza rolls.
No, no, none of the things you're saying. They're like fairly fancy little meals that are healthy and blah blah blah. I don't know. I could go look, but I think I've got some pork and some turkey and some chicken and some a little bit of everything.
How much preparation do you have to do?
Well, okay, so there's varying ones. I think Blue Apron was the one that kind of started all of this. I mean, I didn't do all my research, really. I just took this because it was...
Usually you do a lot of research.
Yes, because I've been considering all of these things, but they're really pricey, and this was running a special 6 meals for $50. And that's including delivery and including everything. And so I said, I'll take a little risk on this one and just see if... Am I really going to eat 6 meals kind of consecutively for dinner? Like, is this a realistic habit that I could get into? And this was also just heat up in the microwave and eat within the dish. So some of them are like, here are your ingredients and spend 30-minute prep time and another 45 in the oven.
Right.
And that's not what I'm looking for. I can see why that's appealing to a lot of people, but just personally, like, my point is convenience.
I can't really understand. I don't understand why that's even that appealing. I mean, you might as well just go to the grocery store and get those things. You have to do the same process to prepare and then cook.
I tried.
You just buy your own ingredients.
In a way, they're making it idiot-proof, I suppose. Like, just dump this packet of spices in there, and then you feel like... So you get to reap the benefits of feeling like you prepared something, and yet you... I don't know, but you're spending the time, and that, to me, that's like the whole point of this is I'm not going to go grocery shopping. This place even it has snacks, freshly has snacks, like healthier snacks. So what if I had, your basic like, nuts and whatever, it's just snacky deliciousness, and never had to go to the grocery store again, and it was all... I had a variety of foods, and I was eating healthy. Because my problem is, if I'm coming home from work and I'm hungry, I just will like go through Taco Bell or something a couple of times a week, and that's just not what I need to be doing. If I know I've invested, there's almost a psychological investment. Kind of like if I buy a workout program, I'm going to do the workout program because I bought it. So I think some of that commitment is psychological, and so I'll see how that plays out. But I'm excited about it.
I last month, or I guess it was for part of April and most of May, I was trying out a ketogenic diet, and with that you basically can't eat any carbs, and so that rules out a lot of fast food that I usually would eat for lunch or something. And so I was in the habit of making, grilling a lot of meat or cooking things in the frying pan and stuff, and I actually before I tried this diet, I thought, man, it's really inconvenient to like cook your own stuff. Like, you have to do things and preheat things and put spices on things, and there's just a lot of steps. I just want to eat it. but like, actually, I have now, through doing this, I've now learned that oftentimes it's more time efficient to just make your own food than to go to get in your car, drive to a fast food place, even go through the drive-through. It still would take me, 25, 35 minutes from leaving my apartment to go get the food and coming back to when I could start eating. And you can easily prepare a delicious meal in 25 or 35 minutes.
That's a good point.
Grilling a steak only takes, 8 to 10 minutes. Doing I did some lamb chops in the frying pan. Those only took about 8 minutes. Like, so you could saute mushrooms or spinach or whatever else you want to go with it. It doesn't take long. So actually, I have now, I'm not doing the keto diet anymore. That was just an experiment. But now, for the last few weeks, I'll only go pick up food for lunch like maybe once or twice during the week, and I just make my food the rest of the time.
So that, as far as an experiment, you've come to better appreciate just cooking, essentially, or creating your own meals? I realized
that, I was doing something that I thought was convenient, but actually it's not convenient. It's less convenient than it could be.
Well, there's also something to be said for you're starting at home, you're leaving, and then you're coming back home. I mean, if there's a place
if
between
there's something already on your way, then that changes the equation. But starting from home and saying, I need food in my belly, what do I do about this? And then, you have to leave, go get it, and then come back. Well, that just takes more time.
I guess just the bigger picture is, like, there's so many different ways to consume food now, and it's so far from that hunter-gathering, like that used to be the way. You hunted and you gathered, and that was how you ate. And now it's like, I'm debating whether I cook at home, go to fast food, or have it delivered to my door. It just is so far from what cavemen had to do, I guess.
Yep, we're not cavemen anymore.
We're not cavemen anymore. And so, yeah, the real question too is how delicious is the food for me when I eat it? I'm just, I don't know what it is psychologically about cooking, and either I'm bad at it or I don't like. I'll prepare. I've done this several times, like grilled some chicken, put them in, their different portions, and have it ready for the week, and then I'll just be so dreading that chicken that I'll convince myself to get Taco Bell or something else. And I'm like, why do I do this? Why am I like this? And I wonder if I'll reach the same feeling with the Freshly thing. I don't know. We'll see.
I don't have that feeling.
I want to know if I'm unique in that, or if other people, can identify with this idea that, like, oh, dang it, I made this chicken for the week, and now I'm sick of chicken on the day I made it all. Like, I had to look at it knowing I'm going to eat it all week, and I'm sick of it by the time I'm done cooking it. Like, what's wrong with me? Does it not
taste good to you?
Chicken's good if I cook it right. I feel like sometimes I haven't figured out how to perfectly prepare it, and that's silly to say, but it just doesn't come out good sometimes, and sometimes it's fine. So,
yeah,
it's my own ineptness, I guess.
I don't know. I mean, I do, I just went to the grocery store this morning and bought a bunch of salmon. That's one of my go-to things, and I just make a bunch of salmon and then eat it throughout the week. It's actually pretty good, reheated. And I do chicken sometimes as well. You could try bacon wrapped chicken. That makes it taste a little better.
Yeah. You wouldn't think salmon, by the way, would be good reheated. I would think fish would be bad reheated.
You wouldn't think so, but it's actually really good because it's pretty fatty. It's a pretty fatty fish, and it just reheats well. It tastes, I would say, 85% as good reheated as it does when it's freshly cooked.
How do you reheat it?
In the microwave.
Yeah, subject shift, yeah?
Yeah, I've got something that you might find interesting.
Hit me with it.
So I don't know how much you remember your Bible stories, but I've got an interesting etymological thing to talk about, and I'm gonna read it to you starting from a Bible verse. The reason because the Bible is really old, and so this is probably one of the earlier recordings of the word. So anyway, okay. You probably don't remember this, but way back in Genesis, in Genesis 24, the Abraham story. Do you remember anything about that?
Maybe. I'll tell you what I remember after you tell me the story.
Well, the story isn't all that important for what I want to talk about, but there's a part where Abraham, he's asking one of his servants to go out and search for a wife for his son Isaac, and so he makes his servant testify that he'll go to his homeland to find a wife, not where they currently are located. So the actual verse is, tell me if there's anything in this verse that's unusual to you. So the verse is, "Put your hand under my thigh. I want you to swear by the Lord, the God of heaven and the God of earth, that you will not get a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites among whom I am living, but will go to my country and my own relatives and get a wife for my son Isaac." So is there something unusual in there to you?
I mean, your initial "put your hand under my thigh."
Yeah. Isn't that weird?
Could you read it that one more, or at least that part, the first half?
Put your hand under my thigh. I want you to swear by the Lord, the God of heaven and the God of earth, that you will blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, so it makes me feel like instead of putting your hand on the Bible, and you raise your right hand and swear, whatever, like you're putting it under your thigh as some sort of solemn promise making.
Yeah. What is the deal with that?
Hand under the thigh.
So here's the interesting thing. So the word testify, that's essentially what this person is doing, is testifying solemnly that they will swear to do this thing. And so there's a theory that under my thigh means cupping Abraham's testicles.
When you said testify, I'm like, oh.
Well, this phrase and the similar putting your hand under the thigh and all is used a few other times in the Bible as well. And this estimates of Abraham's time was like 1800 BC, so a long, long time ago. And the Latin root for testify is testis. That's the same word as testicles. So there is a link there somehow. And so the historical question is that what it means? Like when you swear, or when they swore back then, did they do so on each other's testicles or on their own testicles?
Like I swear, like put your balls on the line kind of thing.
Kind of, right.
Or I guess you're putting your balls on someone else. Your hands on someone else's testicles and then swearing.
Right. Well, so I found when I was looking for information on this, I found another kind of anecdote or assertion that in ancient Rome, men used to swear by cupping each other's testicles, or if they were giving public testimony, grabbing their own. Now, how weird is that to like be in court or whatever and just
hold
grabbing
on to yourself?
I swear.
I swear by this, by all that I hold sacred in this world.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. It makes some sort of sense that like familial, like kinship, not just kinship, but I guess your family line and your ability to reproduce. It's always a premium. It's why we exist. But I feel like that was, lineage. A lot of the Bible even spends a great amount of time going into the detail of the various lineages, and
that's true.
And this is who you are. You are more than that the importance of a last name. So you're more than your name, your first name. Your last name is a really big part of your identity. So nothing's more important than your lineage, your name, and what you bring to the table. And so it's easy for me to link testicles to symbolically represent lineage and like everything you stand for. And so it is how you go and reproduce and that sort of thing.
Yeah, that tends to be the analysis that I found as well, and it makes sense. So swearing on your progeny or whatever. And so for this particular Abraham story, Abraham's trying to find someone to marry his son. And so the servant swears on Abraham's balls, I guess, because, it's Abraham's progeny that he's trying to make good on, essentially. Also, when I was looking, apparently this connection isn't 100% accepted. There's some muddying of the waters that I found where the same root can mean the number 3, which suggests maybe a third-party witness. But the question remains, like, why is testis the root for both testify and testicles?
And put your hand under my thigh sounds euphemistic. Like it sounds like they didn't want to get too explicit, but they're clearly saying put it there.
Right.
And it wasn't sexual. Like it clearly was not sexual.
Right.
So
I also found when I was searching about this, I found an interesting article about how baboons will use testicle grabbing as a greeting. Because it shows trust. Well, because the baboons are really they're really antagonistic and aggressive.
Right.
And
nothing's more vulnerable than than allowing that to happen. You were saying you've got me in your hands. You can do you could defeat me here.
Yes, yeah, that's exactly right. And I like this particular article was talking about how a lot of primates actually will, like, a sign of friendship between primates is like they'll just stick their fingers up the other one's nose or just continually like slap at them or something. and the longer the one being slapped or having their nose violated will just sit there and take it, shows the strength of the friendship. And so like two uncertain baboons will use testicle grabbing because it's a sign of trust.
Wow.
And they're essentially saying, I'm going to put myself in this vulnerable position, and we both know that we could take each other out or whatever. And it was linked to the swearing on the testicles by humans, and in that it's kind of a similar sort of behavior.
It is, being completely vulnerable in that moment too, and in which you are testifying. So you're saying this is true, and I swear by the testicles, but also there's some trust in your word. This reminds me of the less extreme version of humans. My understanding is that the handshake is a way of, when two parties would come to greet each other, you'd be saying, I'm unarmed, see me. Like, you're revealing by having your hand extended, I have no weapon and I don't intend to grab one. And so that makes sense. It it's not as extreme as like, now let me fondle you or hold you in my hand. Like the handshake is so much tamer, I suppose,
I guess.
or less vulnerable than the monkeys holding each other. Wow, I didn't know that.
Does this mean that women can't be trusted when they swear?
Yeah, women just aren't. They cannot testify. They should not be. Right? They can hold someone else's. I'm still a little unclear. So
Yeah.
in this case, it's hold. If you're going to testify on something, you're going to tell someone, you're going to hold theirs. I need to know the truth. Come here, get your hand, put them under my thigh, and tell me the truth. Like, is that what's going? That makes a little less sense. Like, it seems more symbolically right to hold your own, or to let. If you're telling me the truth, then I'm holding yours as you tell me the truth, or something like that.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, the details
I don't want to get too caught up into that.
May have been lost in history, but I guess now, like, if anyone ever asks you to swear or testify or pinky swear or anything, you can one up them.
Yeah. I'll know exactly what to do.
I'll do you one better.
Oh man, it's so so strange. I like that. I like etymology and learning about words.
I do too.
That's a particularly unique one.
This is something that popped. This is silly, but this is one thing that popped into my head when you were talking earlier, and I wanted to interrupt, but you were on a roll. You said reap the benefits. You were talking about food, and you were saying, you want to reap the benefits or whatever. But reap and rape are actually from the same etymological origin as well. And
I want to rape the benefits.
I want to rape the benefits. You could just replace that phrase in your vocabulary.
You mean to get everything you can out of, to snatch from, to take from, like, to grab with authority, to reap. Yeah. That's a little uncomfortable, but to reap the benefits, because that's when you to reap the rewards, to reap, you almost benefits and rewards seem to be those common phrases that it's coupled with, not something you would couple with rape, like rewards and benefits of right. That's uncomfortable. All right, so I was scrolling through my Instagram earlier, and I have a lot. You have an
Instagram?
I have an Instagram. Yeah. Why? Actually, my students made it for me forever ago when we were on a Washington, D.C. trip, and we were all just snapping pictures all the time, and they said, oh, like, post them, and or send them or whatever. And I said, I don't know what a good way to do that is. So they created one that ended up becoming sort of a teacher's student account, so I'd post things we're doing in the classroom and whatever, and poetry.
Do you still post anything on there?
Very rarely. And
how many likes do you get? There are likes on Instagram, right?
Yes. So that's a good question. So the average, I can tell you that, like, you can people clearly categorize their popularity by their number of likes.
As they should.
Yeah, that's your self-worth is dependent upon your number of likes, clearly. And so by the time you have someone who's like a senior in high school who's popular, they're going to be getting 500 likes, or if they're reasonable, 300 likes. If you're unpopular, 80, 70. If you're active, this is assuming you're active, and I'm very not active and unpopular and an adult that, like, so I don't have, so what happened is it was only students following me, and it was pretty much just strictly professional account. But since I don't, like, get on it a lot, and then some people from, like, high school or people I know would kind of follow me, but it's not like I'm posting a lot anyway. I would only post. So if I post something,
people from high school, you mean people that you went to high school with?
That I went to high school with, or just
so the lines are
friends.
blurred.
Yeah, they're blurred, but I don't use. I mean, it's all about how I use it. So if I were posting sort of politically incorrect jokes or edgy stuff, that would be one thing. But if I'm just,
or even if you were posting just teacher stuff, then it would be a little weird to have your high school friends
just see teacher stuff, I suppose.
Right.
But no harm done. They would just say, wow, this
no
seems
harm done, of
professional,
course.
Sort of, or whatever.
They'd just defriend you. Or what is it called on Instagram when you delete someone? Unfollowing.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, I'm not the expert to ask about Instagram, but I can tell you if I post something, and it's to give you perspective, it's been like over a year, maybe 2 years since I posted, but I'll get like 30 or 40 likes. Yeah. I mean, not a lot at all. And so,
Yeah, you're really unpopular.
but what I find, the reason
Is there anyone on that you follow or anything that's way more popular than you that gets a lot more likes?
Oh, almost everyone has, even the unpopular high school students will get 70, 80 likes, like I was saying.
Wow.
But
can you
go ahead.
send me their contact info and I can start doing a podcast with them and stuff?
Yeah, you and I are like horribly ill-equipped because we neither respect nor engage in social media and like this. So it's really, let's start a podcast. That makes sense.
Wow, we're gonna really get a huge following.
We really understand this culture, and we really, since we like it a lot, let's start a podcast. We really are not the prime to, but I guess that we're also unadulterated by it. We have not been reaped by it, you know.
No reaping of us. And that's something we can testify to.
So that was good. So what I ended up doing too is following writers and teacher accounts that give you little, like, you know, what they'll call like micro professional development moments, just silly stuff. It's just quotes and things like that. It's a lot of quotes.
Right.
I just see a lot of quotes. And so today I saw one, and it was just a quote by Susan Sontag, and she said, well, she's like an American novelist. I think she did some films. She has written some modern essays. I don't really know. I'm curious. That's funny that you say that, because I heard the name Susan Sontag and I'm like, I know that person, definitely. She's famous, and I should know. She's probably famous for some other things that I would go, oh. But I didn't bother looking her up before I did this.
Yeah, I've never heard of that person.
So it's probably something that like literature or literary people should definitely know, and that's why I've heard the name, but I couldn't tell you what she's done. But she's super famous within literature, whatever that means.
Right.
So she just said, and it's a simple quote, it says, "A writer, I think, is someone who pays attention to the world." And that hit me, and I liked it in its simplicity. You know, a writer, I think, is someone who pays attention to the world. And that begged the question, what should we pay attention to? Because I agree that a writer, like, the job is to notice the smaller things, to kind of slow down in this ever-increasingly fast-paced world. And then this got me on a roll thinking, just to show you how difficult it is to decide what to pay attention to. I thought about, and this is not a novel idea, people have covered this ground before, but like just YouTube alone. YouTube began on February 14th of 2005. And the math on that is that they have been in operation for 5,234 days. So that's 125,616 hours.
Wow, you're throwing a lot of numbers at me, man.
Too many?
I'm just not a math guy like you are, I guess.
Well, I did the math beforehand. But since they've been open since 2005, they've been open for 125,616 hours. And they have purported that they have, this is what blows my mind, 300 hours of content are uploaded every minute.
Right.
So roughly, if you were to go back, I'm sure that wasn't the day they launched that
Obviously
they had that sort of numbers. But if we just ran that, it's 2,261,000 or 2,261,088,000. Doesn't matter.
You're saying if you did assume that rate was constant all the way since then?
Right, because they released that number like 4 years ago and haven't updated it. They're pretty mysterious about how they won't just say how many hours of content. 300
big number?
300 hours of content uploaded every minute. So if you were to say 300 times 125,616 times, that's 2,261,088,000.
Right.
And
so
then,
even a conservative estimate puts it at, approaching 1 billion.
Yes. And if you were to say that the average American human life, which is roughly 79 years, it's like 78.6 or something. That's 692,040 hours. That's how long we live. 692,000.
Right.
And so
692,000?
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, we couldn't even watch like less than 1/1000th of the content on YouTube if we did nothing but watch YouTube.
Yeah, 1/3,267th.
Yeah, with that big estimate.
Yeah, with the bigger estimate. And so, like, this is just YouTube. Like,
sure.
And a lot
of
not
it, even counting E-Bomb's world.
It's not counting everything else in life. I'm just saying, if we wanted to direct our attention and become an expert of YouTube, That if a writer's job is to pay attention, I would actually say to be a good human is to pay attention. Like, slow down, take note of what matters.
Right. Yeah,
What the heck do we do? And I feel like it's been a question plaguing philosophers and people forever, but we have certainly made it more difficult with just putting in more things. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. What struck me, this doesn't really speak to your ultimate point, but when you told me the quote, will you read me the quote again real quick?
Yeah, it's I'm pulling it back up. A writer, I think, is someone who pays attention to the world.
I mean, that's not all a writer is, right? I mean, because if you pay attention, that doesn't mean you're a writer. You have to actually write what you paid attention to.
Right, able to articulate their
I mean, it just seems like a
experiences.
weird wording. I understand what this person is trying to say, but it seems like you would say, writers, I think, pay very close attention to the world.
Right. Yeah. No, I see what you're
It's a
saying.
trait about writers, instead of saying a writer is someone who pays attention to the world, like they're equivalent, because obviously you could pay very close attention and not write anything. But I'm picking apart the sentence, I guess.
I think it's artful in the fact that it phrases it that way. So I agree with you that it falls apart on the semantic level. But
art. Is it poetry?
Well, I'm not trying to be silly, actually. I think it's just that a writer is someone who, and then you could do a poem on that. A writer is someone who pays attention to the world. A writer is someone who feels intensely. A writer is someone who, and then
Is
like,
that? I guess you don't know the context of the statement to know if that is what
I
happened.
don't know. I don't know, but I like it decontextualized because it just it unearths one of the key facets to writing is like if you're not paying attention, then you're not a good writer.
I definitely agree with the spirit of that. A writer does have to pay attention because you need material.
Right.
Otherwise, you're just left with, well, what do I write about? I don't know anything.
And there has to be some intuition guiding like what you're paying attention to and what you choose to reveal. Because if you want to write even just a basic scene between two people, well, at least now you have you have a construct of two people interacting. But like, to what degree do you go do you tell about them entering the room, and then do you talk about the door, or maybe the doorknob, or the inner workings of that doorknob? I mean, there's just infinite detail, and selecting which ones matter. I mean, that's kind of the secret to life is like, well, what do I pay attention to? And if I could do that, then I could get toward meaningful answers.
Well, I mean, even on a physiological level, we're kind of designed to deal with the problem of overwhelming stimuli around us. Like, you can become desensitized to smells, for instance. You know, like, if you walk into a room where someone has burnt some bacon, you instantly notice. But if you stay in the room for a long time, you stop being able to smell the burnt bacon.
Okay, so we know that's true, but why is that the case?
You mean on a cellular level, or I mean, the point that I'm trying to make with regards to paying attention is that your body has mechanisms that will filter out bombarding stimuli so that you can focus on what's changing, because what's changing is more likely to be relevant to your survival, for instance, right? So if something is just continuous, then you're obviously dealing with it. But if it's something new, then that's something worth paying attention to.
So once your body's recognized okay, there's burnt bacon in here, and since we know this, I don't need to continually be reminded through the olfactory senses that that's the case. So they just
sure. Well, I mean, you could imagine someone living. Let's take your caveman example, and it just smells like cave around them. Whatever cave smells like.
Yeah.
You probably have a shampoo that
it sounds like a good man shampoo. It really does, like cave for men.
Cave for men. I like that.
We'll make women cave.
So like it just smells like cave normally, and that is not special. But as soon as you start to smell fire, smoke, then that sends off alarm bells. Like, you pay attention to that. It would wake you up if you were sleeping and you smelled smoke, because it's a change. It catches your attention, and your body is primed for that, to pay attention to things that change suddenly.
Yeah.
Because your cave might burn down.
Yeah, you need to know that. Fun fact, they add that smell to gas, I think to natural gas. It's like a rotten egg smell, so that we can identify it or something. So if there's a leak in your house.
Right, because it can kill you.
Right. And so this company, I wish I could give you all the details, but a company in the, let's say, 70s sent out a scratch and sniff sticker so people would know exactly what it smelled like, and it replicated the smell so accurately that they were getting hundreds of calls about leaking gas before they stopped sending out the little card, with the scratch and sniff sticker.
Wait, I don't understand. Why were they getting calls?
Because people they were getting it like as a pamphlet in their mail, like almost like a junk mail thing. Like, here's a little scratch and sniff sticker to remind you.
They just wouldn't pay attention to it and throw it away, but
they would smell it. Yeah, I guess there's maybe they scratched it. Maybe a kid. I don't know. Because usually it takes the scratching to release the smell. But they were getting lots and lots, like hundreds actually was the number. I know that's all these details are murky, but I know that they were getting hundreds of calls before they just discontinued sending out these scratch and sniff stickers to their customers to remind them, I guess, that this is what it smells like. It's kind of a weird, even like campaign. Like, here's what our gas smells like: stinky eggs. Yeah, but smell. So yeah, we are. That's an interesting theory. So that it's not theory. I guess it's just true that we are more accustomed to when something changes. Like, if someone were to walk in right now, I would know that. But honestly, someone could have been standing behind me quietly for the last 20 minutes. I mean, I find myself looking, and no one's there. But
right.
But
well,
yeah.
I mean, I guess you could also try to say that, our bodies are designed in a way so that we have limited perception. I mean, our eyes only face forward, and we don't have eyes all the way around our head. We can't see in 360 degrees around ourselves. And not only that, but our eyes have to focus in a particular area. Our peripheral vision isn't as strong or as detailed. And so, like, we're built to focus on one thing or a small subset of things at a time, rather than absorb a whole lot of information all at once.
Are we more okay? So when we're focused, so like you and I having this conversation, entering this concept of third space, which we could articulate more, but like you and me come together, we're not in the same room, but we're talking and we're focused on each other's words. Are we more vulnerable? The more focused we are in one area, the more vulnerable we are to every other area. Is that reasonable?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, sure, if someone kicked down your door and was going to rob you, then this would be a bad time. Like, it would take you, obviously you would react, but it would take you a little bit longer to react, as opposed to if you were standing in front of the door, like, waiting for someone to come in.
Right, and if you consider something even more subtle, because that would jolt you, right? So that would make you leave third space completely. But if there was a creeping fire behind me, gently burning initially, no, really though, like, or whatever. So I'm trying to think of just something dangerous that's not so obvious, like someone coming in the door. I'm not going to say immediately, but I'm going to change directions and leave this space, and I mean, yeah, it'll be jarring to shift, but I will do it. Whereas I could just see myself neglecting, like, fire behind me, smoke's creeping in, and I'm just so into our conversation that
or your girlfriend was calling you, and you left your phone on the counter or something.
Oh, or like the time we were actually, I forgot to pick her up from the airport.
Oh God, that was hilarious.
Yeah,
very funny.
I mean, that's like true. Like, we were in a conversation, so I neglected a duty or a promise or whatever. Yeah, and I think that's actually a realistic. People do this all the time, neglecting whether it's work or schoolwork or tasks or laundry or lots of stuff because they just get focused on other things.
So it seems like that what we're talking about is actually, I can't say that it's an uncommon problem nowadays, but it seems like that that problem doesn't get as much focus, to put it in a funny way. But like now, rather than the problem being people are too absorbed in what they're working on that they lose track of maybe things that they should pay attention to, now instead the problem seems to be people's attention is so fractured and spread over a number of apps and messages and streaming shows and sites and everything, that now no one has the focus to actually get anything accomplished on their primary task.
Well, I totally agree that the word fractured you use is just encapsulates it all. I find myself, even during my moments of pure entertainment, I'm addicted to the game Clash Royale, the little, app game on your phone. And so I'll pull up an episode of, like, I'm rewatching It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and it's just, I've seen it before. I like it a lot. It's been years, so I'm rewatching it. But I'll find myself saying, well, since I've seen it before, and this is my entertainment time, and it's not the kind of intellectually rigorous exercise to pay attention to the plots. They're episodic, they're silly, they're absurd. So I will play Clash Royale while it'll go on, and I'll find myself, we think we're good at dividing our attention, but we're totally not. So I will jump in and I can fill in the blanks, but ultimately I'm like losing out on the joy of the show, or losing a game in Clash Royale because I'm paying attention to the show, and I'm not getting some sort of double the benefit. I'm definitely getting some half-assed, like I'm not getting even 50-50. If you add them up together, I'm getting the same amount of joy. No, I'm like getting watered-down crappy versions of each, in which I walk away going, that game wasn't as much fun as I thought, and that show wasn't as good as I thought either. Like, that's what's happening ultimately.
Yeah, I have the same experience whenever I try to split my attention like that. Things just don't work out as well. Like if I'm talking on the phone and trying to, I don't know, read an email or just do some relatively trivial task, but that does require reading some words, it's just not, I'm going to be distracted from the conversation, and I might like mess up the task that I'm trying to do. If it's just a purely mechanical task like folding clothes or something like that, no problem. But
it's still a problem for me. I would say I can only accomplish it at 20% of the speed, folding clothes while talking to you and being engaged in a conversation. But guess what? I'm willing to go at 20% the folding pace, because who cares? Like, right. Who cares?
I wouldn't say it's 20% for me. I can do it pretty effectively. Having to hold the phone at the same time, because I don't have fancy schmancy AirPods.
They're great. I recommend them.
I'm not interested. That puts a damper on my effectiveness a little bit, but I can still manage to fold everything pretty quickly. And to me, that's like your concept of bonus time. It's like bonus chore or whatever. I accomplished something, and I didn't have to actually. It's almost like I wasn't even there to do it. My body just did it for me.
Yeah, well, that's so because you're distracted, then you're pulling yourself away from that in a good way.
Have you ever thought about, I think we may have talked about this at some point in the past, but it's been a while, because we talk on the phone a lot, and for years we have, and many times when we've talked on the phone, one or the other of us has been driving, either a long haul drive back to our hometown or whatever, but it's a good time to talk on the phone, because it's just, you can divert your attention. But in a way, it's kind of scary that you're behind the wheel of this big machine going, dozens of miles an hour.
Dozens.
And it's okay to be in a different third space. You're not even really present there on the road anymore. Like, all of your focus and attention is on the conversation. And sometimes, like, when we've had conversations like that on the phone when I'm driving, it's almost like I just appear at my destination, after the conversation is over. I don't really remember passing through wherever I passed through or whatever happened on the road, unless it was something that jarred me out of the conversation. I'm just like, oh, I'm here.
Right.
Wow. It's really bizarre.
It is. Well, people who also make their daily commutes and perhaps have an audio book and the ride, the automaticity is there. They don't have to think, oh, I got to take a left up here. Let me check. Like, no, it's like you take a left every time. So you just arrive at work, or like you said, we're talking on the phone for an hour or two or three or whatever. And like those 3 hours went by and we were focused on the dialogue, not the ride. How is this safe? Like, obviously, something's going on where it's safer than we think. And I can picture times too where I've been like, hold on, Bennett, like there's something weird about this car coming up ahead, or this, you know, or I got a tough turn here. Hold on, just a second, like, or whatever. So we seem to be reasonably good at identifying, hey, I need to come out of this for a second and focus elsewhere. But I am uncomfortable with the idea of I'm going 70 miles an hour on the road and like not actually thinking about it at all. Like, well, I can't say at all. I mean, clearly but
I guess it just goes to show how good we are at putting certain processes on the back burner. So when you're driving, like, again, unless something is rapidly changing, then it doesn't need your attention. As long as you're between the white lines, you know, and there's not someone entering your visual space or honking their horn at you that you can hear. As long as nothing is interrupting the expected and relatively I mean, things don't visually change that much when you're driving.
Right.
You know, even though you're going fast, the road is made in a way that it doesn't change that much. And so if it's a relaxing drive on the interstate, it actually doesn't require all that much attention from you. And so you can focus somewhere else. But in the same way where, you know, if we were having this podcast and someone kicked down your door, you would notice that. You know, if we were having a conversation and you were driving and someone pulled in front of you, you would notice that too. And it would jar you.
Perhaps this is all a testament to how easy driving on the interstate is when things are going smoothly, you know.
It is. I mean, it is really easy when things are going smoothly. And I guess that's why, you know, we have auto driving modes on some cars that can drive for you when you're on the interstate.
Gosh, that's going to be so difficult for me to transition to when I actually put it on. And I can't imagine the first time that'll do that. It'll be very scary to me. But that's a whole rabbit hole.
Well, at least right now, with the way it is right now, you're supposed to sit there and pay attention to it. You know, like you can let go of the wheel and everything and let it drive, but you're not supposed to, you know, like climb into the back seat or fall asleep or anything.
But could you read a book, maybe? I mean, what are the limits to this? Because if you're actually paying attention, and then why not just hold the wheel? Yeah,
right.
Like that. That it seems it's not reasonable to say, you don't have to drive, but you have to do all of the driving. You need to be assessing the situation and ready to intervene at a moment's notice. It's like, well, then you're driving. Like, what's the difference? What, your foot placement on the pedal and your hand not gripping the wheel? That's the difference. So,
yeah, I mean, I guess you probably could read a book.
It seems to me. Well, okay, I know when I'm going on a ride, like I won't call you or anyone else until I'm in a place where it's easy. So I won't call you and then figure out all the little turns and stuff I have to do to get on the interstate. I'll wait until it says 70 miles before your next turn. Okay, now I'm good. So, so I intelligently like position my phone calls to be when I can be on autopilot, essentially, at least, you know, mentally on autopilot.
Right.
So, how far are we away from that being almost a standard thing in cars, like autopilot?
You know,
real
some
autopilot.
some people think it's right around the corner, and you know, we have prototypes that work. You know, Tesla cars have essentially an autopilot mode, and Google has a car that can navigate, you know, traffic lights and turns and all that stuff, like with a bunch of cameras and sensors on it. So in the prototype stage, we can manage it. I'm a little skeptical. I would love to see it become more popular. I think it's really cool technology that could save a lot of time and lives potentially. But I'm a little skeptical about how quickly it's going to advance. And this skepticism is born of like going to the grocery store. If you go to the grocery store and just stand in the self-checkout area and just watch people for a while,
yeah,
man, you'll quickly lose faith in people's interaction with machines. You know, like,
you mean because the process is relatively simple. Scan the barcode. I mean, literally, they've made it idiot proof. You don't even have to press start anymore. You could walk up, scan your items, and put them in a bag, and click pay, or just, you don't even have to click pay. You could just put your card in. Like, you could be as disrespectful to the machine as and still reasonably get through the process without any hindrance. Yet there's lots of hindrances.
There's lots of hindrance, man. People are just so bad at that. I don't understand, because there are big glowing buttons that tell you what pressing them does, and like, people will be just. We've had self-checkouts for how long now? I mean, like, for maybe a decade, not quite, maybe.
Seems like it. Seriously, yeah, I think so, probably.
And people still haven't figured out self-checkouts. Like, I'll go to the grocery store and there'll be someone in the self-checkout just stumped, you know, just completely stumped and at a standstill, and like making exasperated noises and looking around for an employee to come help them. And the employee will come over there and just go boop and hit the button on the screen and go, all right, there you go. And then they'll be like, all right, thanks. And they'll just continue about their way. And here I am waiting, like, with my 2 items.
Why is it that technology, and I mean, forgive me for critiquing old people here, but they're worse about, so the older someone is, but okay, so if there's a problem that presents itself in the world outside of technology, anyone tends to say, all right, well, what do I know? What can I study? How can I look at this problem? And then how can I solve it reasonably? I feel like technology gets a unique pass, especially from older people, where a problem is presented that is no more complex than, is something like, all right, the cereal I want is too high up. So I look around for options. Is there a stool? Is there a taller person around me? Is there a stick where I can knock it off? Like, I
need to stack these bowls inside my cabinet.
Yeah, right. Like,
I mean, like, here's a task that requires some amount of brain power.
Yes.
How do I arrange these different sized bowls and lids in my pantry area? And an old person can deal with that. And yet an old person can't deal with select your payment method.
Right, and it'll say credit card, cash, debit card, or something.
And have pictures.
And they're big and they're giant. There's like 3 or 4 options. And
I don't understand this either. And, like, all of my grandparents are bad with technology. I love my grandparents, but they're horrible with technology. And I don't really understand, because most of the time when it comes to software interfaces anyway, the designers try to make it so that it tells you what to do. There are buttons and icons and things that essentially say, this is what I do. Like, there's some dollar bills on the button next to cash, and there's a little shopping cart icon if you want to see what's already in your cart on an online site. Mm-hmm. Like, buttons are labeled. If you're on a website, they say search and, like address or whatever. They say what they do. Now, some modern designs, now that we've had interfaces for a long time, they try to make things a little bit more sleek, and, they don't explain things. And I'm actually not a fan even of that minimalist design. I think things should favor function. But generally, you can navigate technology even if you have no idea what it is, if it's foreign technology to you, because you understand the basics of navigating a virtual world. You can move, if you understand how a mouse works, you understand how a screen works, you understand how a keyboard works. And I'm not talking mechanically, I'm talking functionally. Like, the mouse is for moving this little thing around on the screen.
Right.
The screen displays output for me, and the keyboard is an input mechanism. Like, if you understand these things, you should be able to just feel your way along. And what I've observed with my grandparents is that even given those tools, they can't feel their way along to figure out how to work things. And I can't figure out whether that's because they don't understand the basics of the basics, like how you're supposed to use a mouse or a keyboard or a screen. I find it hard to believe that it's a lack of understanding there. Another option that might be is fear of messing up. I think that's probably the more likely one.
Well, that's actually what I was going to explore. So, yeah, first of all, it is like for some reason we grant a pass that if someone said, I can't stack these bowls, you would say, come on, you're smarter than that. And there'd be frustration. And we'd say, you can stack. I mean, assuming there's not a physical barrier, I'm too
Sure.
weak or something. Like, no, you know how to do this. Come on, use your brain. But yet, with technology, we kind of acknowledge, yeah, I guess it can be scary for old people. Then the
I
question
don't.
is, well,
I'm ruthless with my grandma. I say, get it together, grandma.
and kick her.
Left click, left click, left
What
click.
do you think I mean by left? Do you understand left? Do you know what click
You know
means?
left and right, grandma?
Okay, so let me theorize for a moment why the fear is so is. Well, let's try to understand, since this is obviously like lots and lots of old people fear technology. Is it because the older versions of technology were not as fail-proof, in the sense that, like, the analogy would go something like this. Imagine I say stack these bowls, but one misstep and the bowls explode. I mean, you're going to be pretty scared of stacking the bowls, or at least resistant to. And so you see, and maybe everywhere you go, there's a different version of bowls, and they stack
Right. You
slightly
would rather
different.
just leave the bowls on the counter.
Yeah, and so I mean, I do believe that earlier technologies were more susceptible. You hit the wrong button, and they probably experienced this. They deleted a file, or the computer just went off, or like weird stuff, because it was clunkier and it was worse. And so you come to this piece of tech, you're a little iffy, or even just suspicious, all these natural things, like, what is this newfangled contraption? And I feel like I'm being left behind, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
And perhaps I can take some comfort in the idea of, if other people also criticize this thing that is leaving me behind, like, well, then I can like take almost pride. Part of my identity starts to be resistance to this, but I really don't have any reason. So I'm coming toward it with all this suspicion, and then I click a button, and it just goes error, delete, and you're like, oh my god, this is confirming all of my suspicions. I am done
Sure.
with this. And so that behavior was like, they were getting justified early on during like maybe the maybe.
Yeah,
and so
conceivably. So here's something that might supplement your theory. So I think that it's pretty safe to say that technology 20 years ago, 25 years ago, or 30 years ago was more prone to error, or more prone to disastrous effects. Like there weren't protections against deleting things, or you could mess up something pretty important if you were just a clueless user. Things are a little bit more idiot-proof now,
Right.
even if they are more complex
Right.
in a way. So there's that aspect to it, and that's what you're saying. But also I wonder, this may be a stretch, you can tell me what you think. I wonder if media exaggeration or amplification hasn't also strongly affected old people's fear or timidity when it comes to technology. Because if there's one thing that old people are not afraid of, it's watching TV.
Right.
Old people will watch TV and have watched TV. That's a relatively safe technology, at least for the last 40 years. That's been widespread and common.
Yeah.
And also, there are numerous stories, pop culture, shows, movies, whatever, about killer computers, or people messing up their computers, on the news about your credit card being stolen.
Is that
or
what you mean by
hackers.
exaggeration? I didn't know what you meant by exaggeration, or amplification.
Well, they're exaggeration in the form of movies or TV shows that play up computers destroying things or taking over or ruining you,
you
when
don't
they
hack
mess up.
TVs. That like, hacking is, you don't
Sure.
hack a TV.
So that for exaggeration, and then for amplification, well, it's the same effect that we see now with the media. We only see negative news, and we see relatively small local negative news from some area elsewhere in the country that doesn't concern us at all, and everyone is exposed to that. And that's amplification of something that probably shouldn't really have as much amplification as it does. And so in the same way that negative portrayals of gun violence or crime or whatever else make it into everyone's homes, similar stories of technological malfeasance or malfunction make it into old people's homes, and they see that. They're continually exposed to times when technology messes up. And so now when they have one of these mysterious computing boxes in their own home to mess with, like, they have all of this experience that they've seen on TV of it messing up, and that can contribute to the fear, or at least being timid and not wanting to be the gullible fool that ends up on the news for having deleted their their local town's database mainframe.
You think that's a possibility? They get this machine and they're scared that they're going to delete something important of their town, like their town's history. And
I mean, yeah, that's kind of silly, but
no, I love
timid.
thinking that, though. Oh, no.
I mean,
imagine the jokes you could play
so
on your grandparents if you did something like that. You have deleted the archives of the local library. You could have videos.
The mainframe is gone, Grandma.
What did you do? The police are going to be after you.
You deleted the motherboard.
The motherboard, Grandma, the motherboard. Make up all these terms. Oh man, you're gonna have to pay for like.
Grandma, now you have random access memory on your computer. What have you done? You turned on the random access memory.
They're gonna randomly access you. Well, I mean, in that way, we're joking, but they offer like class, like people try to capitalize on their fears and like try to do these classes for old people that are probably insulting. Where this is a hyperlink, but it's not insulting if they really need to know.
It's not insulting if they don't know.
Sure, you're right. Actually, I shouldn't say that. But like,
I mean,
it seems to me though.
I think that's very helpful.
Courses should be helpful, but I don't like the idea of like. Imagine your grandma said, "I just invested. It's $500 and it's two weekends obviously. Over the month." And like you just go and it's this scammy, and they're talking about hyperlinks, and you're like, "Yes, I'm glad you're learning, and I'm glad you're feeling more comfortable." But oh my god. I mean,
obviously you could prey on people.
I feel like that exists deeply. Like that's just, oh man.
Yeah, it may. That just seems like the thing that's more appropriately done at the local library. Just a little seminar or tutorial course that someone does to help people figure out how to check their email and whatnot.
Right.
Because, I mean, the steps are not, it's not hard. I mean, yes, you can mess up and find yourself in a place or with a menu that you don't expect, but it's pretty easy to reverse those courses of action. Like, I trained my mom pretty well. So, my mom is she's not a technological expert, but she can do what she needs to do on the computer now. Like she can Google something that she doesn't know and watch a YouTube video or send an email. She can handle that kind of thing.
Sure. Yeah.
She used to be just as scared of it as my grandparents because she was inexperienced. But once you start poking around and trying things, then you learn what's dangerous and what's not. And that's why I think the fear thing is probably the more likely explanation, because that keeps you from exploring. So
take all of this. Yeah, once you're poking around, I think you're well on your way to being fine. Like if you've overcome the fear and you're poking around, you're good. You're gonna learn now,
right?
Because you're actually engaging and doing the problem solving that we're talking about. That's what we mean.
So how did we manage to? I mean, we poked around. That's how we managed to become relatively proficient.
I think we're a unique breed. I mean, I like these terms, digital immigrant and digital native. So kids growing up now are digital natives. They were handed iPads at very young ages, and like there's no fear because they haven't been in this. You can imagine the difference. Like your mom is a digital immigrant. She like existed pre-technology as we know it, and now has had to warm up to the idea and immigrate over to the tech side. And so you and I think at our age are uniquely positioned. Like I don't know what you would call us, a hybrid. Like we were 13, 14 doing dial-up stuff. We were on the frontier at a meaningful age. And so like we were necessarily just poking around. And
did you ever mess anything up when you were learning in the frontier of technology? Did you ever mess anything up?
I mean, perhaps I didn't save a Word document or something. Maybe I was frustrated that I had to redo an assignment, but I can't even think of a specific one that was so large. Maybe it was like a smaller assignment.
What was your experience with viruses and stuff like that?
Well, that's actually interesting. I'd like to think about that for a moment. I was like my dad was big on like getting Norton. I had a fear of it.
Well, that's the difference. Your dad, he may be a technological immigrant. Is that the term you used?
Yeah.
But he, I guess, acclimated to the culture.
Was
pretty
excited
quickly.
about it. Like part of his identity
And I mean,
was,
that's
I'm
part
gonna
of
have the
his
latest and
that's
greatest.
part of his job
Yeah.
too, right?
Yeah.
So he knew what was going on with technology and stuff.
And so we had all this virus stuff, and it would be scary though. I'd go to like a website like funofun.com or like these like early sites that, just silly sites and eBombs World, and it would pop up and be like virus detected. And so I don't know, he kind of showed me how to walk through it. So I did have a fear of viruses, but and then like, as soon as if we got a new computer, we'd upload it and it'd take a lot of time. And I don't feel like that's the process today. If people buy a computer, like that used to be in the same way people would want a phone case or a charger when you buy a phone. Like that's what you did when you got a computer, is get all your virus software, because it's just like you do that. But I don't, that was my thought process. But I don't know that's maybe it's because I have an Apple. I don't know, but like. And it's wise to go ahead and download a free software if you do Microsoft or something, but I don't think of it as wild. Like I used to hear stats like you'll be infected within 1 minute on the internet if you don't have any virus protection stuff. Do you remember this like pretty fever pitch stuff?
It did used to be a lot more dangerous, I guess you would say, just because there weren't countermeasures and there were a lot of vulnerabilities, and because the internet wasn't as pervasive. I mean, it was still around, obviously, but people weren't used to, getting regular automated updates or something like that. Then they would be left vulnerable, and you could get a virus from opening an email or an attachment or whatever.
I guess that I thought that the problem only gets worse with more people, more access, more bad guys, more viruses, more complexity.
Well, I think maybe it does, but there are also more sophisticated defense mechanisms. Browsers have a lot of built-in defenses now, and your operating system has a lot of built-in defenses, and unless you are poking and prodding in the shadowy recesses of the internet, then you're not going to encounter that many threats. And like, I guess with development of technology, there are now more safe areas as well. There are still plenty of dangerous areas, but there are lots of useful safe areas, and so you don't have to venture outside of the safe areas that often. You can check your email, you can do your research, you can play your games, you can write your Word documents, all of that in safe areas of the internet that aren't quite as vulnerable.
And those safe areas actually, in a weird way, would shrink the internet. We think of it as this ever-expanding place, and it is. But if you think of, like, if YouTube... so, like, what do people do on the internet? You could probably have a pie chart that would say 80% is occupied by 10 websites. Or I don't know. Maybe that's way off. I really don't know. But what I'm saying is when you have thousands and thousands of offshoots, and if not millions at this point, yeah, but yet we're spending our time on YouTube, a few specific gaming websites and message boards and that sort of thing. Like, and they're all safe. Like, if you are safe, then people will revisit you, and that will become, part of your regular process.
I kind of had the same observation as you just did, because right now I'm actually taking a class on info security, so I'm having to learn about malware and all of that stuff. And like I was just kind of thinking that it does seem like there's less of an emphasis on downloading antivirus software and running scans and firewalls and all of that stuff. Just seems to not be that much of a focus or a necessity now compared to before. I've had that thought too, and I mean, I guess it is just because the sites and tools that we use routinely have ironed out a lot of their vulnerabilities, or maybe it's just that the people designing the malware have turned their interest to other areas. I mean, if the user base of the internet is ever expanding and growing, why prey on the people using Microsoft Word, when Microsoft patches all of their vulnerabilities and updates everything? Like, why focus on that pretty hard to compromise target when you can focus on developing countries and their like late 90s era websites? If you can prey on people there, whatever that means.
That's sad then. Like, it makes it ever more difficult to start up something. But yeah, if you've decided YouTube, or you've decided, I don't know, all these different domains are safe, or Gmail. Like, if I do online shopping, it's almost certainly through Amazon. I feel pretty safe through that. Even I've noticed I've bought some stuff not through Amazon, and they said, want to use Amazon Pay, and like I clicked it, and it had all my information. Once I signed in, not like in a creepy way, but I gave it permission and I used it. And this is like, just I think Cole Haan's was one, like the shoe place, like different places that were just not clicking through Amazon at all. And so my point is just like it's shrunk the internet in a way.
That's an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah, well,
more
powerhouses.
One interesting thing that I did read, I'm not a big fan of this course that I'm taking, but one interesting thing that I did read is about a particular piece of malware that was developed back in 2010 or something, called Stuxnet. And it was actually Stuxnet, Stuxnet. That's what it was called. Anyway, it was developed and targeted at the Iranian nuclear development program, and it made its way into Iran and somehow into their nuclear facilities, and it was built to mess up their hardware. So there were centrifuges that were centrifuging material to use, and it made their centrifuges go berserk and wear out and fail. And this was malware that someone or some government or entity wrote to sabotage their program. I thought that was kind of wild.
That is wild. Wow. That is... What kind of warfare would you call that?
Cyber warfare.
That is true cyber warfare, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a good example of it. It's creepy.
I thought that was really cool. Now, my experience with viruses and stuff kind of differs from yours just a little bit, I guess. I mean, my parents were technologically inept, and so I was the only one who knew how to use the computer that we had, and I was really the only one using the computer for the most part, and so I was the one having to figure out what I should put on there and what's bad and what's not. And I remember having weird virus experiences where the computer would behave strangely and just weird things would pop up, and I'd be like, what the heck is this? Or you get an icon on your desktop all of a sudden for Dolphin screensaver, and you're like, what? I didn't download a Dolphin screensaver, and it's just obviously some kind of malware. And trying to clean everything, and eventually learning, I should have an antivirus or whatever, and scanning and stuff. Nothing ever got too bad.
What is malware? Can I ask you to just back up? I hear this term thrown around, and I get it, sort of.
What is malware?
Yeah, you see.
It's just a general term for viruses or worms, or
is it short for malicious software?
All that stuff.
Malicious software.
Malicious software. That's exactly right.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I remember hearing about this one virus that if you clicked on some link, it could open your disk drive. It would open and shut, and it was creepy to think that if they could potentially start, make commands happen in your computer, what if it could, it could just do just about anything. So.
Well, they can do. I mean, depending on the vulnerability, they can delete all your files. Have you heard about ransomware, where they'll infect your computer, and then while you're away from it or not using it or whatever, they'll encrypt your entire hard drive, and then they'll say, if you don't pay us, via this link or whatever, $400, then we won't send you the decryption key, and you'll lose all your stuff. And they really do. It's not like it's a trick. They really encrypted your hard drive.
Do they really give you the encryption key if you pay?
I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe.
I bet they do, because I bet that spreads, and if it's effective, it's like, hey, they got the 400, and here you go. Thanks for doing business. Like, holy crap! How do they not get caught? Like, is it just difficult to find who they are? Like,
yeah, I don't know about I don't know how tracking them down works and everything, but I mean, it's just a good argument for keeping backups of everything.
So maybe so how you get viruses should coincide with our previous conversation. So you're older, and so something says click here to fix your computer, so they click and then they get a virus. Or are these just...
Well, that's another thing too, is that if you are a novice at using the internet, then you're not familiar with what's normal and what's not. Like, if an old person saw a Windows XP window pop up that said new message from your friend or something like that on it.
Yeah.
They might click, read. I want to read my message from a friend, but they're using Windows 7 or Windows 10. They don't recognize that it's that it's fake,
Right.
So just not having that experience can make you more vulnerable, but that's all the more reason to start with a more stable, comfortable area of usage, like not on the internet, like on your desktop, learning how to move files or open a Word document, and then slowly going to learn how to check your email, learn how to run a Google search. And that's why Facebook is a pretty safe space for old people, because no matter what you click on Facebook, you're not really going to mess anything up.
Yeah, you might go to an ad that's worst case scenario.
Right.
Well, then it's not. Okay, so if technology is a super mystery to old people or just to people who have not been exposed, and they hear things like it connects you with people and all sorts of stuff, then because we chuckle or we scoff when you would see something like new message, like virus detected, or your friend wants to chat with you, and it's so like clear that this is fake. But
hey, baby, want love
now. So some sort of just ad or virus pops up, and we instantly identify it, but they have heard that you do get connected with friends, or that you can have these experiences, and right. I guess this is how it works,
Well, I always kind of laugh and kind of shake my head every time, because I get spam mail, that's automatically filtered into my spam folder by some algorithm. But one that I get all the time is Trump Care. Check your health care through the government or whatever. Trump That's like care. The subject line and stuff. And I'm thinking, like, man, like just looking at the subject and first line of the email, that seems potentially official. And like, if I were just some old person who didn't know any better, then that might be something you click on because you're concerned about health care, and there's some kind of something with the president or something, and you click on it, and it's obviously spam.
Right.
And if you click on whatever link is in there or download whatever, then you're going to have a problem.
Then who knows what's going to happen. But it will be problematic. It will not be a friendly thing. It will not be a good experience. And so maybe there is this is the uncomfortable part, but like, you should have skepticism and you should have discernment. And so you cannot treat technology or anything else in this world with this sort of magical mystery, because if you think of it as just magical, and you go in thinking technology, because technology especially has this, it can do anything. Like, we know when you buy a refrigerator, if it's like floating, like, you should be scared. Like, it doesn't do that. But honestly, technology might be so mysterious and almost mystical to someone who doesn't know that, like, that it's not, that it is conceivable that they see this thing that says you have a message from a friend, even though you haven't created any accounts, you haven't done anything, but you've bought this computer and maybe you're in the system, so there isn't enough skepticism. And that's actually like an intellectual issue, because I think if you talk to a smart person who's never seen a computer in their life, but they're somehow they're educated and or they're skeptical and they are discerning, and you explain to them, give me 5 minutes to talk to them, that they wouldn't be duped by one of those pop-up messages, right? Like, don't you think you could talk to someone who's discerning that could go, look, I haven't created an account and I'm getting this message. That means it has to be fake. Or just don't engage any of it. Yeah, you might ignore a friend here, but until you start to be able to pattern recognition, you should be able to identify crap versus, substitute.
Yeah, but I think it's a little bit more difficult than that, because they might be, doing their routine that they've learned, how to check their email, and then they get a little pop-up on the bottom that says Windows needs to update. And they haven't seen that before. It's not that common of an occurrence.
Right.
What are they supposed to do about that? Because actually you should update. That's what you should do.
You're actually asking a question that's probably very to the core of where people screw up, is they don't do their updates because they see that and they don't know what to do. They kind of freeze. They want to not get a virus, and
right.
That looks a little odd.
Yeah, they're skeptical. This is unusual. I don't know what this is. Bennett told me if I see something unusual that I don't want to know what it is, then don't mess with it. So I'm not going to mess with that. And I guess that's part of the reasoning behind Microsoft pushing updates in a mandatory fashion now, because that's what they do. They just do it without your permission.
Yeah.
Which I don't like, but maybe that is better for some people.
It's like, just look, we got to do this since we're dealing with lots of people. Yeah.
Have you ever had a moment when you were a kid or whatever, talking about these? You were talking about how an old person might be using the computer, and if they get a pop-up that says you have a message from your friend, they should know that they haven't divulged their friends, and so this must be a fake interaction. Have you ever had a moment using technology of any kind, I guess, where it surprised you, like it was legitimate, like it knew something about you that you didn't think you had divulged, but it knew about that, and it kind of freaked you out?
That's an interesting question. One does not come to mind immediately. Let me think for a moment. Do you have one?
I remember one time when I don't remember how old I was. It was when AOL Instant Messenger was all the rage, chatting on AIM and everything. And I was chatting with just random people. You could just go into whatever chat room about whatever and talk to random people. And I was chatting with someone random, and they said, "Hi, Bennett."
Whoa.
What? And my username didn't have anything to do with my actual name, and this was just a stranger. This was not someone on my friends list, and I it shocked me. I was freaked out because I was like, "How? I have not divulged this information. How does this person know about this?" And it turns out that you could dig down in some series of menus and find, what you registered as when you created your AOL Instant Messenger account, and I put my name in there, and so this person was able to find my name.
That would be a disturbing moment.
Yeah, I mean that's the one that comes to mind, and their technology can be so complex, and there are lots of layers that it is strange when someone finds information and you don't understand the route that the information took. Like, for example, this isn't as shocking, but the other day I had to have my internet service provider send a tech out to examine some router problem, some signal issues or whatever. And it was just interesting watching him use the tools. I mean, he just had a smartphone and was typing stuff into a website, and he had to call Central for some support or whatever. But when he called the support people, he didn't even have to say anything. They were just like, "Oh, you're at," and they listed my address. "You're at this person's house at this address, and this is their router brand and stuff." And I was like, "Holy crap! All that information is there. They know the brand of my router,
which
I
odd.
purchased and plugged in myself." I just thought that I didn't realize that there was a route for that information. So it was a shocking in a milder way to me that information was there.
This is somewhat similar, or it's a little bit of a different flavor than what you're talking about. But I've for instance, purchased Wendy's and then had Wendy's advertisements hit me up online, even though I used my card or whatever, so they knew it was me. It wasn't a cash payment, so someone's communicating those card services and trying to decipher.
Sure, ad servicing is kind of mysterious now, like how much targeting happens and where does your information go so that you can be advertised to.
And that is
kind of strange.
My dad swears he's had I think it was. I've already said refrigerator this podcast, but he mentioned a refrigerator. He was talking about his friend had gotten a new refrigerator. They talked about it a lot. He was on the phone talking about it, and he started getting refrigerator ads, and he had not Googled it. He had not searched, he had not done anything. He had not purchased anything refrigerator-wise, and yet, so there seems to be some sort of, the suggestion is there's a surveillance of what, talking. I don't know,
right.
But it makes me want to test that theory more. He swears it was unsettling. Maybe, there's always the chance that he forgot that he did search it or say it or something. In some other context, it's more, easy to trace. But he swears by it, and so I believe that he believes it. So I don't like this idea of talking, like saying one thing, and so like say maybe your YouTube algorithm notes that you tend to say leftist talking points, so then they send you leftist videos on YouTube. Like, think about that. Like,
yeah, all the algorithms.
Well, get those algorithms after you've searched the videos, and that seems up for grabs, right? Like, you're watching a video, and here's a related video, and it can send you. I'm okay with that, but weirdly, if you were talking, and it like your computer listened, and then YouTube suggested videos, because like let's say we did a podcast on magic and we just talked about it a lot, and then I got online, it would freak me out if I started seeing like suggested videos on magic
kits and
stuff. Like whoa. So
yeah, that would be a little weird. I haven't had that experience, but then again, I have ads blocked on everything that I can, which I guess doesn't necessarily mean that my information isn't being stored. It's just that I'm not seeing the ads
can't
targeted
reach you.
back at me.
Yeah.
It depends. I'm not sure at what point in the chain things are getting cut off.
Yeah, that's a good question.
That would be weird. And I don't like the idea of being eavesdropped upon and having, my words analyzed in order to serve ads to me.
That's what's scary, is the assumption about ads is that now we know something about you, and since we know something about you, we can or will attempt to manipulate you, and that is unsettling. Ooh, that's unsettling.
Right. Well, yeah, it's unsettling, and for some people it may be an effective strategy. I just don't really think it would be that effective of a strategy with me. I'm pretty deliberate with the things that I buy. And, I'm not really a window shopper, and I'm not an impulse buyer. Like, I just tend to buy the things that I need. And so, even if I were to see ads, I just don't think it just wouldn't be that good of a strategy. So they're not losing much business with me blocking
I agree
ads.
with that for you specifically. I think most people overestimate that their rigidity when it comes to like resisting, advertisements. I think they're like, I don't do that because of advertisements. I don't purchase based on this sort of, targeted advertising. But they absolutely do. And I think you are a rarely invulnerable person when it comes to that stuff. I think everyone else.
I don't even change my order at restaurants most of the time.
Right. You are uniquely positioned to not be affected by that stuff.
Huh. Well, that was interesting. I think why don't we swap things up a little, and rather than doing a superpower and drawback at the start of a podcast, why don't we round it out? I
like it. Let's do it.
So this time, I think up until now we've done only, on a scale of 1 to 10, rank 1 or rank 2.
Right, the little
superpowers
stuff,
and drawbacks. But this time I'm going to turn up the knob a little bit. These are rank 4.
Double.
And drawbacks.
If they're not doubly more powerful, I'm going to be ticked.
Yeah. Well, I think they are. I mean, part of the fun is how lame they are, but when I'm thinking of these things, if it's interesting, I write it down and then I rank it, and I just happen to have enough 4s.
Let's do it. I'm excited about this.
Without further ado. So the superpowers. Here's the first one. It's called Repair Job. Any broken object you put in your mouth is completely repaired. So only the part that you put in your mouth
Okay.
is repaired, but you can repair objects by putting them in your mouth.
If I can only fit part of the object, can I try and go around, put the other half in, and stuff like that? Okay.
Yeah. Yes. But if it's too big to put in your mouth,
Yeah.
you can't repair it. But if part of it is broken, then that part in your
Okay.
mouth you can repair.
I'm thinking like because you can't repair like big things like your car's broken or something, but maybe if like the spark plug blew, you could put that in your mouth and.
Or if you dropped your
I
phone.
mean, that's actually a good half and half. Maybe it's you don't have to close your lips around it, I assume, but you have to like get it in there.
No. Yeah, it just has to be in there. I mean, yeah, if you dropped your phone and the screen cracked, you could, like try to.
You have to
jam it
risk
way
your
back
injury.
there and repair as much as you could, then
You
turn
obviously
it
just have to
around.
risk your like if it's cracked glass, it's freaking cracked glass in your mouth. Now it will solidify back, I guess, but like you're taking a risk by putting cracked glass in your mouth.
Yeah, I guess you are right. You have to be careful with repairing things in this way. I wonder what happens if you break one of your teeth. It's a mystery I didn't think about. We won't go there. The second superpower is photosynthesis. So you can use sunlight to provide energy for yourself. So one hour of direct sunlight provides a nourishing meal's worth of nutrition. If you sit inside all day with light coming through your windows, that'll give you one small meal's nutritional equivalent, and you can never overeat this way. So you can't get fat by sitting out in the sun.
That's pretty major to me, because you could theoretically like eliminate food from your diet.
You could. Yeah, I mean 1 hour of sunlight for a
If
meal.
you're out there for 3 hours at the beginning of the day, and are you gonna get hungry by the end, or is it just like you've had your meal and it's not overdoing it, and you'll be hungry again later? Do you see what I'm saying? It's not like
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Let's say that it does it's almost like you have a buffer, where your stomach gets full of energy after an hour. Let's say you fill up on your light absorption after an hour, and then you get hungry again over time. So if you spent 3 hours outside in the morning, you would only get one meal's worth of food. But if you went out for 1 hour in the morning, lunch and dinner, you would get all
from
of the
8
meals.
to 11 I'm outside, but when I come back in, I'm exactly full, but like it starts to deplenish at that point. Yeah.
Right, you'd be hungry again around 4 p.m. or
Gotcha.
something. All right, and now for the drawbacks. So the first one is called sliding stride.
Sliding stride.
So the bottom of your left foot, or sock or shoe, whatever's on the outside of your left foot, experiences greatly reduced friction against whatever it touches. So it's about as much as it would be if you were walking on ice in tennis shoes, only on your left foot.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah, that's a 4.
That's assuming really quickly. So if I put on a sock and then put it in the shoe, it's not just slippery in the shoe. It's the shoe. Okay, gotcha. The outermost.
Yeah, whatever's outside, whatever's touching the ground essentially.
Gotcha.
And then the other drawback is a long distance relationship. So you form a special one-way bond with a random teen in Eastern Europe, and you can hear every word that they say as if they were right in front of you. No one else can hear it, and they can't hear you, and it keeps going until one of you dies.
A random teen in Eastern Europe, and so do they speak English presumably or not?
No, they speak whatever they speak is random. So whatever, I was probably going to speak some kind of weird Polish
when they
language
eat a meal
or
and
something.
they chew. Am I hearing? Just basically like an up close mic that's not too loud. Just
No, only verbalizations. Only when they speak. So you won't hear them chew or breathe or burp. Maybe if they burp.
If they burp, I should hear it. If they're whistling or humming, am I hearing them?
Yeah.
I'm not hearing the other side of the conversations they're having.
No, only from them.
And they're teens, so they're probably annoying.
Yeah, and they're in
younger
Eastern Europe, so they're probably about 10 hours ahead of
And
our
there's no
time.
way to mute this. You can't close your ears, and you can't.
Yeah, it's directly into your head.
You would learn to ignore. That's the whole job. How, to what extent? The question is, to what extent? This is for both of them. To what extent can you ignore the volume and cancel it? It'd be fine. And then,
yeah, what can you pay attention to, or how can you control your focus? Wow, it all links
well,
together.
the ice one, yeah, is like, can you compensate this? Can you compensate for this? Can you learn to?
Well, it's almost like wearing. You remember the wheelies, the shoes with the wheel in them. You can kind of do that.
Just your left
with
foot.
your left foot. Slide around everywhere.
You could just get one of those. Have you seen? This is a very common. Instead of crutches, now they do the one-legged scooter. You're bent at the knee on this cushioned thing, and
yeah, I have seen that for particular injuries.
I see it as frequently as I see crutches now. Seriously, in schools. Of course, it creates issues because kids can actually get around faster, or it becomes kind of a fun thing to zip around, and or their friends want to use it and stuff. But it's now like a very common prescription for that, for whatever injuries that's suitable for. All right, so the putting things in the okay, I'm gonna get just instant, like if I were, and then I'll think it through. My initial reaction is to take the photosynthesis one, and take slippery foot. Now I don't know if that'll bear itself out as I walk myself through this, and you can help walk me and challenge me too. The voice thing, you don't know what you're getting. There's too much risk involved. If you could give me more parameters and ensure I'm not with some shouty, yelly like what if I had someone who shouted that no matter if I'm able to. If I'm sleeping and you're shouting, like you can't overcome that pretty much. Like I don't think that's.
Even with your white noise machine?
My white noise machine might do a lot. I'm actually curious. I don't want to get too mystical here, but like if I'm hearing their volume, is it as if they're standing next to me? Is it in my head?
Yeah, as if they were right in front of you.
So that means that the white noise machine does, to some extent, cancel it out. I mean, that's what I don't get.
I mean, it just bombards you with enough noise that it just seems like
so earplugs
kind of
do it too. I could actually at night
No, earplugs won't do it.
That's still, even if earplugs were allowed, I'm still cutting out all noise during those times. So I'm having to,
Earplugs, I imagine, would not help at all. Because then everything else would be quiet and you would just hear their voice loud and clear. Whereas with the noise machine, you're getting bombarded with additional noise, and even though you can hear their voice as if they were standing right in front of you, things are so loud that you can't make sense of it anymore.
The interesting thing about the noise cancellation, or noise machines, is there's a cancellation technique going on, and they're interacting. But if they're not interacting, I'm very curious in this weird thought experiment how it would actually work.
Well, just imagine like the difference. If you were at a loud concert and someone was standing right next to you, talking to you, you might not hear them.
Okay.
And that's kind of the idea.
I just find that this is the great risk. I could get someone who's really quiet, talks very rarely, is mild-mannered, and it just would not be a huge deal. I also don't like the idea of, like, I would start to, in a weird way, get to know them. What if they cried a lot or had a bad life? That would plague me. What if they were promiscuous and I had to sort of like participate, hear that in some way? Like that's.
So, are these positives or negatives?
No, I don't like the idea of having this bond that I.
Yeah, but also it would be kind of a fascinating anthropological study too, right? Like you would grow really close to this person, and you might form a long distance relationship of a kind. You could even learn the language and then have this really unique and special character that you could learn about.
You make a good point. I don't know that
you could move. You could go there and find them, and then you eliminate this drawback.
And then just partner up with them. Just be like you're
right.
We're gonna. In that moment, I walk into the room and they're.
Or you could just go find them and kill them, and then And then it goes away too, because it doesn't jump to someone else after they die.
That's actually, so if they're a high risk person and they die, like the next day, I've really
then you're off the hook.
So much risk involved. Like, so you make good points. I just don't find them compelling. Like, I don't want that sort of forced bond. Like, you're forcing me to now be attached in a very intimate way to someone across the world without them knowing. So I have no say in the relationship, yet I'm deeply committed to it. And that is strange.
Not necessarily. You don't have to pay attention. I mean, you are stuck listening, but you don't have to pay attention.
I do think that's the question. The real question is it would take maybe months, if not years, but to what extent could I learn to ignore, and when would curiosity get the better of me? And I do not like it. Like, it is pretty...
Well, let's talk about the sliding stride, because I'm not sure you're giving it enough credit. Like, it would make mobility significantly more difficult in almost every circumstance. Like, even just climbing stairs would be a lot more difficult.
I mean, I might even be eliminating sort of sports or running or maybe even some workings. Oh, maybe definitely workouts.
Maybe many workouts.
Like,
running would almost be out of the question.
I feel like it would.
I mean, you could maybe develop some special form of mobility. You're essentially skateboarding on your left foot, you know? Like, you might be able to be mobile and get around if you develop this skill, but if you wanted to participate in normal things like jogging or playing a sport or whatever, then it would be
just
far
going
more
upstairs
difficult.
and daily walking around. I want to know how much it's affecting me, my daily activities, which include just like walking upstairs and walking to classes. And I love walking. I really find that to be peaceful. I go on walks all the time, and how disruptive, and it could potentially be quite disruptive unless I'm able to, like, if it's consistently slippery. The problem with ice is sometimes you're like fine, and then sometimes it's whoop and it just slips. I mean, extraordinarily slick, and so I'm gonna
Well, this is always
so I at least
slick.
know what I'm working with, which gives me hope of compensation. And to what extent could I get creative about that compensation? I'm sure I would dedicate a lot of energy compensating in the best way possible. So the really slick thing, and almost like you said, like skateboarding on it, could be interesting. Like, I'm just
in the same way it would be interesting to learn about your Eastern European friend.
Yeah, they're both. Yeah, you're right. Like,
so what you're telling me is you don't want either of the superpowers. You just want both of the drawbacks.
they're terrible drawbacks. Like, this might be a situation in which I don't take it. I actually, I'm serious. I think we might be in don't take it territory. Let me explore the putting the stuff in your mouth. Like, I don't like.
I mean, you could make a living that way.
Yeah, fixing. I mean, even like that's what I was just thinking. Jewelry and
or
phones and
jewelry and small electronics and phallic objects.
What happens if you? So food is like masticate. Like, there's no.
No, food doesn't.
It doesn't need repairing. I suppose
it's not some kind of weird thing where you can't eat anymore.
I'm trying to think of other inventive ways to use this. Like, what it doesn't recharge things or like give them service when they didn't previously have it, right? Like, it's not like a broken.
No, we're just gonna say physically broken. So if you accidentally erased your flash drive and then put it in your mouth, it wouldn't restore the data. But if you dropped it in water and it damaged it and you put it in your mouth, it would repair it.
Let's say I have a jump rope and I've used it and it's frayed to the point that it snaps. Now I put those two ends of the jump rope in my mouth. Like, does it put them back together?
Yeah, it puts them back together.
I'm just making sure, like, trying to think, because I can't.
No, that's a good question. I didn't think about all the possible cases. I think that's fair. Yeah, you put the two ends of your jump rope in your mouth and it repairs them.
A DVD, I lick it. It's scratched as fuck. I like lick.
No, licking doesn't work. It has to be in your mouth.
So
You could, but you could kind of like stick it as far as you could in your mouth. You might be able to reach the central
Maybe,
part
yeah.
of the
and I could just
DVD,
spin
maybe,
it.
and then just turn it.
Really funny. So let's say I have a. What about antique items? Like if I had an antique corroded, like I have a typewriter. One's in working condition and great, and it's antique, but the other one's like just for decoration and stuff. So if I put my mouth over one of the keys, would it like look new, like be restored to its original? I think it would, right? Like I tend to think it would go to its original working condition thing.
Yeah. I mean that makes the most sense.
So I could like.
So it doesn't remove dirt or anything. So if it was, caked on with rust or
Rust
dirt,
is different,
rust
right? Yeah.
is damage, so that would be repaired. But if it was just dusty or grimy or something,
but that's
it
fine
wouldn't
because
get rid of that.
I can handle that and then do that. I can physically do that afterward.
Yes, right. But yeah, like so, if it was, let's see, discolored from sitting in the sun or something. Yeah. That's damage, I think. So that would be repaired.
Because those keys are actually yellowed, so they would not. What if it's okay? These little they have these pearlized like covers over, and some of them are broken. So it's like a half, like the letter D will have half of this little encasing, and I put it over. Like, is it the full encasing then there? Since I don't have the other half.
Right. This is a good question. I feel like it needs answering. Because, I mean, what if you had a jump rope that frayed in half,
the other half,
but you didn't have
or
half of
or
it?
a key broke and I lost that part? Could I put the key in my mouth and it restore one part restores the entirety?
Sure, yeah. And then, if you broke the key in half, put half of it in your mouth, and then the other half in your mouth, would you now have two keys?
It seems
that
wrong.
Seems illegal, right?
It seems like that when you put it that way, it seems wrong. But I think that it should. I think that like half of your stuff that gets broken that you want to repair is like chipped off or a lot. Like, and if you're repairing it, you want to restore the chip. You want to restore the.
Right. So let's say how it works is that you can't duplicate items, and so let's say that that happens. Like you have a like your TV remote or something, you drop it and part of the plastic breaks off, and so you have one big part of the remote and one broken off piece of plastic. If you put the remote in your mouth, then it repairs the chip and the chip disappears.
Yes, good. I'm good with that.
So it can't create additional matter.
Gotcha.
It can just restore it.
Okay, I like it.
That seems fair enough.
A reasonable interpretation of of this.
Otherwise, it would be too powerful, mate. I think
repair job.
Like a blowjob, but you repair.
That's actually why I didn't put it together. That's what you were going for. I said you're repairing. Oh, I'm forgetting the other one now. You made me just photosynthesis.
Photosynthesis. Okay. It's not clever. It's just accurate.
It gives you you get energy, and it just for the argument, I'm not like starving or like craving food. I feel satiated.
Satiated. Yeah. You can. It fulfills your hunger. You can still eat.
Sure, I can still enjoy the pleasures of food and even use it as substitute
but you could,
if I wanted. Like I could go back and forth. I could eat one meal a day if I wanted and do 2 hours of sunshine in different parts.
Right. Yes, you could. But I guess you would still be in jeopardy of weight gain because you can't overeat with photosynthesis. But if you get your 3 meals at light exposure and then you eat a pint of ice cream or something, then you're still getting more nutrition than you need.
I get what you're saying. Okay, so if I chose to invest in some really expensive like light boxes that replicate sunshine and like have the rays that
no, it's got to be natural. It's got to be natural sunlight.
Yeah.
Magic.
Yeah.
We can't. Yeah, it's I mean, even if we can make a plant grow with artificial light, which you can, this doesn't work that way. It has to be the actual sun.
As much as I romanticize the outdoors, oftentimes I'm more comfortable indoors. Like I don't know if I've expressed this on this podcast before, but like I'll be like, I can read in cool spots, right? I got on a bench by the water, and then I get out there, and the bench is actually not like ergonomically comfortable, and there's
I've done that
bugs
exact
are
thing.
there, and so you're like, all right, fine, I'll finish this chapter, but then I'm going in and sitting on something comfortable in my air conditioned, and maybe next to a window, but still, So we totally, or I romanticize the outside and then try to experience it and think, dang it,
Yeah, I'd rather be
that's
inside.
that's actually why I like walking, because I'm experiencing the outside. I love it, and then
it's over.
Well, and I'm moving, so it's either creating just a nice some sort of breeze, like I'm moving through the air, so I'm experiencing something against my skin, and then I'm not having to. I mean, sitting down outdoors is just significantly less comfortable than, because the outdoor chairs are typically just they're hard.
Different materials.
Or they have to be weatherproofed, which are not usually less comfortable.
Right. Right. If it's hot, then they kind of stick
It's
to your
rare.
skin.
I mean, it's remarkable. Like it's rarely very comfortable outside. It's almost always like on good days. What we mean by good days is it's acceptable. Like it's a little colder than like it be, or it's a little warmer. But it's like when you're indoors, you're almost always where you want it to be. I don't like this because I don't like the idea of being inside this tiny box and not going out. But I'm just being realistic that if I'm accepting this photosynthesis magic, that like I might find myself in a position where like, oh, do I really want to go outside for an hour when I could just eat this sandwich?
Well, it says sitting inside all day with light coming through your windows, that gives you one small meal's nutritional equivalent. So as long as you're getting some ambient light, I mean, you could even sit in the window so that you're getting direct sunlight, but you're still inside.
I mean, that's one meal, and like giving me one meal a day is something. But I'm starting to almost convince myself of repairing anything that I can fit in my mouth is starting to sound like I could make a career out of that. I could the gifts that could give me, that I could give others. Like the photosynthesis one is for me, and that's all it's going to benefit. And it requires some lifestyle adjustment possibly. Well,
it doesn't require it. Well,
if I want to get the full utility,
if
I want the full utility of it. And so, whereas putting stuff in your mouth, other than putting it in there, which is an adjustment, I'm not used to doing that. And there's some be careful moments, but overall, like if I choose to go to a business, I mean, I think I could easily just have do my job now, go home, collect, or go to the business, stuff a bunch of things in my mouth. I mean, this is almost instantaneous, right? I'm not going to leave it in there for an hour or something. It's
pretty much
so
instant.
Today, like, I walk in and I see 40 rings, and that could take all of 7 or 8 minutes, or if not less. And then I've done a day's work, and customers are happy because presumably it's pristine, And then maybe I hire one more person to do cleaning. So if it's jewelry, they polish it or whatever. Pretty standard, easy stuff. That's actually sounding a lot more appealing now. Plus, it could be convenient for friends and me, and I get to. So maybe I'm actually convinced myself into the mouth thing. Repair job. Repair. So now I'm leaning toward repair job, and I still kind of
sliding stride, long distance relationship.
I still think slide and stride, but so now the real question: do I take it? Right. You know what? I think for the first time, I'm going to say no, because my life's going to be deeply affected, and like I just can't guarantee how deeply.
You could slide into work, into your jewelry repair shop, and just be like, zoop, 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 and put a bunch of rings in your mouth and swish them around.
It is weird that I'm turning
on
down
each side, spit them out.
I'm turning down something glorious,
and then slide out, and there you go, a hard day's work.
Yeah, I mean, it is compelling. You're offering me magic and like something I could probably.
I'm offering you multi-magic. Like, you could, if you decide you don't want the normal, 8 to 5 grind or whatever, imagine the kind of stage act you could put on with these two abilities.
Also, yeah.
I mean, it might be kind of lame, but
no, if you did it cleverly, if you designed
get
it,
an audience.
you could make a lot of money for a lot of reasons and a lot of, like, you're offering me, like, wealth and riches and as well. So, like, gosh. I mean, wealth if I put it to good use, and I have to work toward it. But I think I would develop both a show and a service if I'm willing to give up teaching and whatnot. Which I don't know, man. But the risk is just pretty great. Like, you might have just, like, in a way handicapped me physically in a substantial manner for the rest of my life.
Well, why not take the long-distance relationship and just go kill that person?
That might do something. Well, yeah, go kill that person. Yeah, just abandon any sense of my moral or ethical code and just...
Well, I mean, if they're 10 hours ahead, then at least part of the day, when you're awake, they'll be asleep.
Yeah, there will be
likely.
lots of moments of quietness. If they're sleeping 6-8 hours, no, I can't do the pairing with the person. I'm pretty clear on that's not an option. So my option is sliding around. And it's, to be honest, even though we're intellectually, like, examining it, it's totally an experiential thing. So I don't know what I'm investing in. But I might just take it because, like, the real question is, would you be willing to just be in a wheelchair and, like, pretty much operate that way, except a lot more mobile than someone who actually cannot use their legs, and you get riches and you get, like, all of this access, and, like, you don't actually need some of the, like, you might not need a lift for your car, or, you wouldn't have to. You could get in your car. You could probably still drive. You could still drive.
Okay, I think.
So maybe that's. I think I'm going to say yes now. Wow, I've really gone all over the map here.
I feel like I did a good job rating these. Do you think these are all pretty close?
The fact, it might surprise you that I can definitively say I can't partner up with the person, but I stand by it. I just can't partner up with the person. But I do think that other people might find that more appealing. So yeah, those were there's equity amongst them. I don't know. They're well done. But you came. I was very close to not choosing it. Yeah.
Right.
So,
I feel accomplished.
You should pat yourself on the back. What did you? What would you choose?
I think I'm gonna mirror your choices. Actually, I think you can get the effect of photosynthesis. It just doesn't save you that much. You can just eat a meal and get your nutritional requirement. I mean, it is kind of nice to not have to do that, and it's a decent diet plan since you can't overeat that way. You could essentially maintain your fitness a lot more easily if you just kind of swore off food essentially and were like, I'm just gonna be outside. I'll just go take a nice hour-long walk, and then I'll sit on the porch and read, and whatever. Just essentially spend 3 hours outside, and you're fine. So that's nice and all, but repairing, I just think that's more unusual. There is no comparable thing you could do in real life other than actually repairing an item, and some items just can't be repaired back to pristine condition. So this is truly magical. You could monetize it.
Yeah.
And then for the drawbacks, pretty much the same reasons that you say. I think sliding stride, it would be real annoying, and you would be prone to injury for a few years while you got used to it. But I think you could get used to it. You could develop a natural way for you to get around. Like, it would just be like skateboarding anywhere on your left foot. And then when you couldn't, you would just have to very tenderly manage your left foot, like put it down without much forward momentum and then favor your right foot. It would be annoying. You would look really goofy trying to get around that way. And people, like, the thing that I think would be most worrisome is interacting with other people. Like, so just imagine a daily situation where you have to go to the grocery store and, like, you're going to, like, no matter what you do, unless you get one of the electric carts, which I guess is an option, like, you're going to look really unusual. You're going to either be very tenderly, like, prancing into the store, like, just really weirdly, like, placing your left foot down very tenderly and then stepping with your right foot, or you're going to be sliding around like Sonic the Hedgehog on some kind of grind rail or something, going, zero, like, give me that cereal while you grab your cereal off the aisle.
No, there's no...
And people are going to be looking at you, and you're going to draw a lot of attention.
That social component is non-negligible, you're right. But it's just manageable.
And so, like, I think you could hide the long-distance relationship one. Like, you could if your mental fortitude is there, you could continue to live your life as normal, and get away without any impact. Now, obviously, it's not as easy as all of that, because you're going to have this person's voice in your head, and it would get annoying, but if your focus is up to it, then you could just tune that out. Now, my focus is probably not up to that. I like things quiet, and someone's voice in my head would really annoy me, especially if I couldn't understand. Well, actually, maybe less if I couldn't understand it. Maybe it's better that I don't understand it.
Right, that's going to attract you.
Because then it's just
actual
gibberish.
Ideas being expressed, you're going to latch on to those frequently.
Right. But if they are actual ideas and I can understand them, then I might actually become interested in the person, and, like, you know, it's almost like tuning into a soap opera or something. Like, oh, what are they going to do today?
I'm not convinced that being interested in them would be a kind of a softening. That could be actually more frustrating. Because
Why?
Then you are subjected to their whims. So when they do start speaking, you're wanting to listen, and you're caring, and you're starting to consider, or they might wake you, or you're more likely to be pulled from your sleep, and
yeah. But if it's interesting and, like, engaging,
well, to do what? You don't have, like, you don't, in almost everything you engage in, you have some say over. Even if that's like a TV show where you're not having much engagement of where you're doing something, you can still stop it, or you can choose to engage it. But this is just something that's on now, and, like, you have no role in it. And that's fascinating, but also eerie.
Most things that happen without your say-so.
Sure, but then you interact. There's no interaction here. And so, like, every relationship we have, we play a role. It's like a two-way street. Most of the things we do have a two-way street. I'm not saying that we have control over the origins.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, like, what if, they're repaving your road? I mean, that's something that happens without your say-so, and you don't interact with them. It just happens, and you deal with it. I think most things are just kind of events that happen to you. Some personal interactions, like, you don't get much say, or you can interact with and change the course of those, but compared to all the things that happen in the world around you, only a small bit of those are personal interactions.
I'd say, like, meaning comes from our, like, who we interact with. So I get what you're saying. Like, yeah, okay.
I mean, it's kind of like, the soap opera analogy is appropriate, but before we had DVRs, or before we could just look them up online or record them on tapes or whatever, and they just played every day, and there was nothing you could do about it. It's kind of like that, right? It's a one-way relationship
on all the time. Yeah. Well, and soap operas.
I mean, it kind of is like a long-running soap opera
that might go into
right?
areas that, like, a soap opera. Like, there is some agreement that, like, it's on TV, so it's not going to have, like, the sort of violence or sadness, or...
So this would be even better than a soap opera, because it's more lifelike.
That's one way. I mean, it could go into some really dark places. Are you talking yourself into potentially choosing it? Why not, though? The risk is so great.
No, it's not the risk. I'm not concerned about risk. I'm concerned about it being annoying, really annoying.
Right. Well,
I mean, like, I don't think there's much danger of me forming some strange bond with the person in a way that I like am invested in their life all that much. Like, I just don't really think that's much of a risk. I think the greatest risk is that I'm going to be trying to sleep and they start shouting in their language, and I'm going to be really annoyed by that.
Yeah, I mean, that's if they're just a loud talker even. Ugh, yeah. It seems so mild, though, someone mildly talking or even loudly talking, like, that, like, it's not a physical impediment, so, but I'm...
Right. Yeah, I just think that I could probably make do with the sliding stride. I mean, in my day-to-day...
We don't get to sample
I'm just
these
not
for
out
a
and
week,
about.
do we? Like, I can't...
No sampling. This is a genie offering this deal to you. So... Yeah, I just think that I could deal with the sliding stride. I could deal with it, and it might even be cool in some circumstances and annoying in others. Probably more annoying than it is cool, but I could deal, and I could make the repair job work for me. Whereas photosynthesis would be nice, but not that nice, and long distance relationship would be just annoying. And the positives, I would have to really search to see the silver lining. For that one, it would just be more annoying. So I think I'm going to go with your same choices. I don't think I would walk away, though. Like, I think I could make it work and be beneficial.
Yeah, me too. I think I do. I mean, I cautiously accept. I hesitantly accept, but I do accept.
All right. Ah, man, that one was pretty good.
It was.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
All right.
Nice
podcast.
Do. Bye.
Bye.